Okay, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is a legendary guitar player from the Detroit metropolitan area. He's played in Mugsy back in the day, and of course, Weapons, and probably some other stuff too that I may not be aware of. Anyway, my guest today is Mr. Joey Gaydos. How you doing, sir?
Good, James.
Anyway, let's get started with a little background. Where are you originally from? I know you moved to Florida for a while, and you're back again, but where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Detroit.
Okay.
I was born in Delray, and then I moved with my parents out to a little town called Belleville, right between Ann Arbor and Detroit, basically. And so then, I'm a Michigan guy. My wife and I went to Florida about 10 years ago. That was long enough. We came back. It's great. It's a great place to be. It's just we got homesick, so had to come back home.
I imagine a lot of your family is probably from this area too.
Yes, all my family, my wife's family is from, Michigan, all born and raised. She's also a Detroit girl. It's in the DNA, man.
All right. So anyway, what drew you to playing guitar? How long have you been playing guitar? Did you start playing when you were a young kid, or how did that happen?
Yeah, well, like a million other guys my age, February 9th, 1964. Gee, I have it stamped in my head. Beatles.
Ed Sullivan.
I was 9 years old. I saw that. That was it. It was like life for me was never going to be, the same. So professionally, started playing in late 73, and Mugsy was formed pretty much to be the first version was formed in 74.
Wow. Are you an original member from Mugsy?
Yep. I am one of the original three. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I remember seeing you guys several times back in the day. I thought, but it would have been in the '80s. I saw you open up for Humble Pie at Center Stage. Me and my buddies were right there. That's when they had those tables and all that.
Yeah. And that would have been the fourth Mugsy.
Right. It was.
Yep. Yeah. There was a point where Mugsy started out as a five, and then we were playing, and we were opening up for a lot of great acts and stuff, but we were mainly just a really popular cover band.
Oh, I know you guys were popular.
Yeah, and we had some home base, gigs like the Second Chance in Ann Arbor. We played with everybody there. It was, Leslie West and Johnny Winter and the Rockets, and who I would ironically as their guitar player about 7 years ago.
With the Rockets?
I took McCarty finally said that was it. He was done. B was wanting to keep the band going, and I was called up to do McCarty's job. So
wow. Who was singing with him at the time?
Jim Edwards.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah, fantastic singer.
Oh, I know he is.
Yes, great guys in the band. So we did a stint for about a year, and we were going to continue, but things just happened, But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Did a lot of shows, So then in Mugsy, the five-piece Mugsy went away in the beginning of 1980 when we joined up with Cub Coda from Brownsville Station.
Yeah.
So from 80 through to 81, we were Cub Coda in the Points.
Oh, so you were in Cub Coda, okay.
Yeah. So when you saw me, it was after that, and that was a four-piece, version of Mugsy, which was my favorite version of the band. Sure.
Now, at that time, I was just out of high school, probably starting college. Were you guys doing still mostly covers, or on those shows?
No, at that originals? Time we had. At that time, doing the thing, the transition from the bar band thing happened when we stopped and we joined up with Cub.
Oh, okay.
So we were opening up for like ZZ Top, bands like Rick Derringer, and on, touring and still doing clubs around, but we were doing our music.
Right.
So after that, it was like, okay, that's what we're meant to do. We're gonna do that, which is what all bands really want to do. So yeah, when that ended, we just said, nope, we're just gonna, and we still did some covers.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, but now we had like clout to like, oh yeah, these guys are not a quote bar band. So
Did you actually record though? Because I mean, I can find some videos of you guys, but I can't find any actual recording.
Yeah.
Album?
See, that's where things got weird too. Mugsy, the original Mugsy, only put out a 45, and it had a song on it called "Mama's Call," and that was our big local little 45, and it did pretty well. And that was the original one. And then obviously with Cub, we put out a record and did our thing. And then with the next Mugsy, we were in the studio getting ready to, not getting ready, we were working on the record after, reforming as a 4-piece, getting everything together with that and playing. And that's the album that came out, which was, instead of Mugsy, was Weapons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's with Tommy Ingram, right?
Yeah, Tommy Farless was our singer for the Mugsy version, which, and both of them, fantastic singers. Tommy I've been with for years, and Farless, I also worked with him in other things later on until he unfortunately passed away, but that happens. So, but he was going through some problems at that time, and ironically, we were in the studio recording the album. He had to take a break and get his life together, and which was great. Unfortunately, here we are with a whole album and no singer. I mean, he wasn't gonna. He's like, I'm done playing.
He couldn't finish.
I'm not gonna sing. Yeah, I quit. I quit music.
Wow.
Which didn't last, but it was at that point. It was like, nope. I'm getting through. I'm getting myself together. I'm done. I am not doing this no more. We found Tommy Ingram, incredible voice. He was playing with a band called A.S.U.R. We were on the hunt for a guy. I mean, we got to find something here. It was all recorded, and we had to literally re-record all of Tommy 1 to put on Tommy 2. You know? So that's how that happened. And then during all that, it wasn't my idea, but the name of the band got changed.
I was wondering.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, okay, we're taking a vote basically, and it's like I was the odd man out, so we became Weapons. So the first record that we did, which was actually going to be the first Mugsy record, became the Weapons album debut with Tom Ingram. So
now, who from Mugsy, other than yourself, came over with a part of that?
So that was Pete Banker, bass player, and Fred Schmidt, the drummer. He also, he's big-time studio owner, engineer, producer. He's been in a lot of bands. He's in a band right now with a couple of guys, Greasy Carlisi and a couple other dudes, called The Strains. And he's playing about. But Pete was our bass player, and he was a big part of Mugsy, and we were also, those were the points. I mean, me and Pete and Fred were the points, and me, Pete, and Fred were the original Mugsy guys. So that's how that fit.
Now, did Weapons, once you changed over to Weapons and you did the album, and you're obviously referring to Captive Audience, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Once you did that album and changed the name and all that, did it in any way alienate you from some of the original fans? Because you mentioned both singers were great singers, and they really were, but totally different styles.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, James. It was, you know what? I'm brutally honest, and that's the only way I know how to talk. But it was hard for me. It was not my favorite band, and I could understand why a lot of people that were like, what happened? We couldn't foresee what was going to happen with Tom Farless. That was more of just a AC/DC kind of rock. Big, fun, big band. Had a lot of, just a lot of power.
Yeah.
And it was a really, the songs weren't, they were heavy, but they weren't to the point of what Weapons became.
Right.
And so the first album was received pretty good. The Rock Starts Here was like the big song off of it. That got us, to go to London and things like that.
Really? Wow.
And work with Samurai Records and whatever. But it was, for me, it was different. And I knew some people that went, what happened? So, but it was what it was. we did the best we could, and a lot of people saw a different side. Now it was a heavier thing, and then as it went on, we added other guitar players were added, so it became a 5-piece again. It's what it was.
It was definitely different in the sense of, like, because you'd mentioned Mugsy obviously starting more or less in the 70s, and this is into the 80s. More of that style. It definitely lended stuff to that kind of style and that kind of sound, which was really cool. I think the album's great. Matter of fact, I found it recently on vinyl at Dearborn Music, and it was like, I have it on CD. I uploaded it somewhere. But to find the vinyl copy was like, because I'm big into vinyl, I love vinyl. And it sounds great. It's phenomenal. Where was that record recorded?
First album was recorded at several studios. Boy, now you're asking me. I'm trying to think. First album, I believe, was at the Schoolhouse Records in Schoolhouse Studios in Ann Arbor.
Right.
I believe that. I'm pretty sure that's where it was. And the thing is that everything changed and blah blah blah. And then the second album, which was Second Thoughts.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, well, we did 2 records. Weapons did 2 albums, Captive Audience, and then Second Thoughts. Second Thoughts was the full ahead, straight 5-piece band, because the first album was just the 4-piece,
right.
3 guys and a singer. The second album was recorded, and by that time, there were things that everybody, we got to sound like this, and we have to sound like that, and we should try this, and we should try that. And I understand that. To me, it didn't represent how I felt about it, for sure. I like more of the straight ahead rock and stuff. This was more elaborate guitar work, a lot of, double harmonies and stuff. Now I'm playing a pointy guitar with a wine bar, so, which was never in my possession ever prior to that. I was a Gibson Les Paul Jr. P90, let's go, nothing funny, no pedal board, no nothing. Now it's like, we got to do all this kind of stuff. So.
And where was the second album recorded?
When was it?
No, where?
Where? That's a good question, because I don't honestly remember. At that point, I know some tracks, basic tracks, might have been recorded at the Schoolhouse. Then I know there was a recording facility in Dearborn where we did a lot of overdubs, because at this time now, by the second record, there were keyboards and synthesizers that were being added by other musicians that were coming in, doing session work and these kind of things. And again, I'm just being truly honest. By that time, I had pretty much completely lost interest in the whole band. I mean, I was ready to go.
Right.
Not too shortly thereafter, I left.
Right.
It wasn't, you got to be true to who you are.
Sure. Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. There were times that were fantastic, and we did some cool stuff. But we got to go play the Marquee Club in London with that band. But this is what you have to live with, and it's like, well, there you go. So after that, that was about it for me. After the second record, I was like, okay, thanks guys, see ya.
Were you signed at the time? Was the original album, were you signed for that, or the second album?
Yeah, they were like local, labels and stuff like that. We weren't signed to any big company, like a Geffen or something like that at the time, or But we were on some decent, like I said, one was on Samurai. That was like a label and out of London. It was good, but there was just so many things that had happened. The band just was trying to keep going, and it was breathing its last breath there. By the time the second album was out, we had personnel changes with the other guitar players. We would be playing places like Harpo's, and things like that. As silly as it sounds, but I remember just looking over to my left on stage, and there's a guy playing keyboards next to me, and I'm like, who is this guy again? Seriously, and the drive just wasn't there for me. I didn't like the way where the music was going. There was a great version of a song that we did on that Second Thoughts one, and Tommy Ingham sang his ass off on it. It was a version of the Bee Gees song "To Love Somebody."
Oh, wow.
And that we thought was going to be, because back then that was the big power ballad was, the thing.
Yeah.
Every band had to have the hair and a big power ballad. So we thought that was really going to take. We thought that was going to be what was going to really get us back on our own shows and headlining and stuff. it just didn't happen. So it kind of took the wind out of the sail. And after that, like I said, personnel changes.
Sure.
And that happens.
Now, other than going over to London in the Marquee Club, did Weapons tour at all, like in the States and Midwest? Or
Yeah, we played a lot of nice shows. We didn't go we didn't go all over. We were really concentrating on trying to work on this next record. But we did do. I mean, I shouldn't say we didn't go all over. We played a lot, but we were doing places like Freedom Hill. We headlined there, and we were doing big shows like that. We were opening up for some bigger acts, obviously, and that was cool. But we didn't make it to where we were getting that big break.
Like I said, I'm not familiar with that second album. I'm gonna have to look that up and see if that's anywhere on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah, you can find it.
If you're saying it wasn't something, more or less you're implying wasn't your cup of tea after a while, and the style had changed, was it more of a new wave rock kind of thing? As far as that,
it was like that. No, it wasn't. It was actually like big, like, what was the band that felt like White Snakey kind of thing?
Oh, okay.
Where you got the two guitar attack, the singer that could just, hit the stratosphere with the high notes.
Which was big in those days.
Like anything from like Def Leppard to that kind of thing. And again, I wasn't particularly a big fan of those bands.
Right.
And so the band was kind of being pushed into, through the management and people that were directing it at the time, to like, well, we should sound like this.
Right.
Well, then we don't sound like us. We sound like us doing that.
You're trying to create something,
Yeah, and it's like where Mugsy had this sound that was just, I mean, everyone that I've ever met since that band had come and gone would go, man, why you guys didn't get signed, I don't know. You just had this thing,
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what musicians want. I mean, the biggest compliment I've ever gotten was that when people say, oh man, I hear you play guitar, I can tell it's you right off the get. Now, good or bad, you can tell it's me. And
Definitely
that's like,
good.
Yeah, and that's like, wow, that's what you want to hear.
So you did have management. You weren't signed to any kind of major label deal. Did you guys shop any of that stuff around to the majors?
Oh yeah. I mean, we did A.S.U.Rs and stuff like that all over. We went to New York. We went everywhere. We were signed by at one point we were working with Al Nally.
Oh, really?
And we were opening up for Black, and we were opening up for Brown, and all this, and so we knew, and then there was another a guy named Bruce Lorfeld, but these are going way back.
Sure.
But, and we had people that wanted to work with, and we had agents that were booking us and everything, but we didn't have the big break there, and I think a lot of it was because personally I thought we weren't being original. We were sounding like every other band that was there, which is
that's what they would have wanted in those days, especially because it was all about creating the next big thing, hoping for that big hot single that, like you said, the power ballad thing was huge with every band practically. And did you ever go in there or want to go in there and say, well, we should remix these a little bit less synthesizer and heavier guitar? I mean, did that ever come about with any of these agents that said this is what you need to set yourself apart?
Not so much the agents. It was more of the guys. There was a couple of members in the band that really thought that that's what we should do, and they were also helping with the booking and stuff. And I really don't want to name names.
Right.
But yes, there was a lot of. Again, I never wanted to change the name. I'm like, for crying out loud, you guys. I mean, we've had this Mugsy moniker and people are knowing us by, you say Mugsy around Detroit, in Michigan, lower, and it was like, oh my God, we know that.
Why did you give that up? Do you think that was given up? You said you voted on it. Do you think that was given up because of a new band and out of respect for that?
It's just like, again, someone says, well, guess what? He likes the name change, and he likes the name change, and he likes the name change, and you don't like the name change. Guess what the name is going to be? It's not what I didn't want.
But that's weird because, like you said, you've already established yourself with that name for so long. It was so recognizable, and then to completely change, and not only change it, but you obviously had to get a new singer and change the sound. You know that.
Shoulda, couldas, all
Yeah.
the shoulda, coulda, woulda. And again, it's one of those things where, like, I recently talked to one of these gentlemen that we're talking about that,
Right.
and we got into a little bit of a discussion. Let's just say the guy said to me, "Well, then why did you stay with the band for the next 3-4 years?" And I said, "Because I had to work. I mean, we were working musicians,
Right, right.
And so what do I do? Like, okay, I'm going to quit because we could get gigs. I just didn't like doing what we were doing,
Right.
So, and it wasn't my thing, but we were good at it. So it was like, well, I had to eat. I had to pay my bills.
Were you looking for anything on the side? I mean, that you could have done and still been
Well, I mean,
playing
I always picked up, jobs and gigs and stuff, and I did do, whenever I could get session work,
Right.
I would do that. But that was far in between, and because the band was okay, this is what we're doing.
Right.
I mean, I always had, I had a day gig pretty much whenever I could,
Right.
I would find something. But then there just comes to that point you go, that's it.
Right.
That's
Right.
it. And so that's what happened with that. And again, that's what, you live and learn.
Right.
So
Now, you've been doing anything recently after that?
oh my God, yeah.
After that, what did you go on to that? I mean, you mentioned, sitting in and doing that version of the Rockets. What else?
Yeah,
were you doing?
that just happened like about 6-7 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in between that, when that Weapons fell out, I did a wonderful CD with Rob Tyner from the MC5.
Wow.
And it's called Blood Brothers, Rob Tyner and Blood Brothers. And just to play with, being in a band with one of my heroes,
Sure.
was fantastic, And unfortunately, Rob passed away way too early. I love doing that, and so that was a great project, and we did some really nice shows. Unfortunately, there it went.
Right.
After that, though, I took a couple years off. My son was born. My wife and I had our guy, little Joey Jr. So it was time for me to take a break and be a dad. Absolutely love, and I still do. But I started writing back the style of the original Mugsy. And I put out, which is probably my favorite rock stuff I ever did, a band called A.S.U.R.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
You heard
was that
of that,
with
yeah.
Tommy?
That was with Tom Farless. Now,
Oh.
by that time, Tom Farless, the Never Say Never thing,
Right.
well, he was back in the fold, right? So it was like, okay, great. So me, Tommy, Pete, and then we had, different drummers. As a matter of fact, we had a drummer named Joe Klein. Any relation? No. Okay.
I'm not originally from the United States. I'm
Oh,
from Canada.
gotcha. So yeah, that band to me, and everybody that heard the A.S.U.R. stuff, and we were playing, as often as we could, and we put out a CD, and we had local management, with that, and they went, "Oh my God, it's like new version of Mug,
Yeah.
And it had that piss and vinegar thing, that like pool. That was probably one of my favorite projects.
Were you back to a 4-piece style?
Back to a 4-piece, bass, drums, guitars, vocalist. Let's go.
Right.
No keyboards,
Right.
no synthesizers.
Yeah.
And again, nothing wrong.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
But if it ain't your thing, it ain't your thing. You got to be true, like you said.
Yeah. So that happened, and that lasted for a while, and that was great. And then, like everything, that goes away. And then I kind of floated around. I worked with another really, really fantastic singer-songwriter, unbelievable songwriter, a guy named Nick Pute, and he's a pure pop guy. His songs were just killer, and we ended up in this thing together with him. It was called The Respectables.
Okay.
We actually had a song that made it into a movie, a soundtrack called Jeff Who Lives at Home, and we put out an album, and put out another album, and we put out an EP, and we were having a lot of fun, and then that stopped. So that was a big fun thing, and it was a real departure for me because I was going into an area that I loved, but I wasn't real. I didn't play it a lot. It was a lot of pop, very, very pop. I got to really stretch out on different kind of chops as far as like what I normally would play and what I played.
Right.
A lot of people loved it, and the funny thing is, I would still do some solo tours or little shows. I'd go down to Ohio and around and do some stuff. And it was funny because people go, I mentioned we listen to the respectable stuff, and that's it. It's like, yeah, got it, no problem. It wasn't their thing. They wanted to hear the rock guy.
Right,
so,
the Mugsy style thing.
the Mugsy guy.
A.S.U.R,
So that was cool. My son and I have been doing a project lately after he did. About the move. Right?
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. Him and I are doing a thing now that we're back in Michigan.
Oh, he's back too.
Yeah, he moved back before we did.
Oh, okay.
And so, when we left, he was still here. Then he came to Florida. Then he came back a couple years before we came back because he, same thing. I don't want to be down. It's like, yeah, I gotcha. So he's doing good. Did a stint with Uncle Cracker for a while, and he's been writing like crazy. You can check him out on Joey Gaydos Jr. on Instagram.
Right.
And we did doing a thing called the Mojos. It's cool. It's instrumental. We both love, instrumental guitar. So we did an EP that's out, and we're still planning on doing another one. So stay tuned. That'll be coming out hopefully by the end of this year. So that's kind of,
that's kind of where you're at, eh?
Yeah, I got the Rockets call while we were in Florida, and hey, we want you on guitar. Great. So I would fly back, do shows, rehearse for a week or so, do shows, did a lot of big shows, and that was fun. Again, getting to play with another legendary guy.
Oh yeah.
Having to sit in for Mr. McCarty, who fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say? I mean, he's one of the originals. Him.
Yeah, I've talked to him twice. He was really cool.
Yeah, he's a very cool dude. So that was fun. Yeah, that kind of what Florida. I played with a friend of mine down there in Florida. A great singer, fantastic singer. We did some fun stuff. A duo, having fun, making a few bucks here and there, and that was fun. And so never stop playing. I guess is what I'm saying.
You still have the passion for it, obviously, because you still want to keep playing, and that's a good thing. Did Mugsy back in the day, and then of course in the Weapons, did you guys get any radio airplay? I mean, locally or nationally?
Yeah. The rock stars here got a lot of air. That was getting played on, at the time, like Riff and all those stations, W4 and everything, and that was our big song off first album, and it was like, okay, cool, and of course you had to have a video, so we had videos, and we did video stuff, and I mean, we again, you're at the mercy of what do we think is going to work.
Sure.
I go back to the big power ballad, wow, that's going to be our song that's going to probably knock it out because it didn't work. It happens, so.
Well, what about Mugsy? You guys had some originals. Did any of that come out on,
No, actually, we like the little 45 was just like a local thing, and it didn't really go anywhere outside of the state. When we really got our stuff was when we joined up with Cup, and so Cup going in the points, and we were playing this rockabilly, rock and roll, bluesy, fun stuff, and that got a lot of airplay because obviously of Cup, and then like the new band, back in, so that was cool. We got a lot of airplay out of that, which helped when you always use that. Well, so and so formerly from
yeah.
So, but yeah, the original Mugsy did not get a lot of air. No.
Well, you played a lot, and everybody knew you, and people still do. Now, I like to ask people this question, and kind of there again, take you back in the Wayback Machine as far as these bands. Is there a certain show that, like say for Mugsy, that everything clicked as far as the night, the music, the sound that sticks out in your mind after all these years?
Yeah, there is. And this is with the 5-piece Mugsy, the original band. We hadn't done like a big headlining, where you get to open for a big headliner. We've been together, and we've been again playing, packing the club, doing all that stuff. The big one, the first one that really stuck out in my mind, and still does bring back fond memories. We got to open up Joey Gaydos.
Oh wow!
At the Flint IMA Arena.
Oh, that's really going back.
Yeah, and but that you're saying, well, that era, that Mugsy, that was like holy smokes, and literally, I mean, we had not been on a big stage. We had opened up for Brownsville Station a few times. Again, we were working with Al Nally and those people, and Brownsville was great, but we hadn't got to play with them like because they were still kind of they headlined a lot, and when they did the big shows, they were part of the opening.
Right.
You know, but this was like the first big, like, holy smokes. And Jay Giles at that time was just, they were hit, you know. I mean, they were selling out, you know, Pine Knob 3-4 nights in a row, you know. So we got to open up for him, and it was just the coolest thing ever, you know. And you got to take it, and it's the music drug, you know. It's like you get a taste of that, you go, oh, I want to keep doing this, you know.
Now, how did you guys go over with their audience? Because, I mean, you're talking a totally different style as far as your band.
Yeah, but not really. I mean, Mugsy, we had a lot of fun songs in that original first one that we did. We went over great. We did have some originals that we played. So we mixed our setup from what I can remember. This is a long time ago. We mixed our setup with obviously originals and covers that, you know, we knew would go over. We went over great. I mean, we didn't get booed.
Right.
People applauded. People were like, woohoo, you know. So that was, and being in Flint, you know, it was home grounds, you know. We played everywhere, you know, and I mean, literally everywhere.
Was there certain clubs at that time that, you know, that you were playing at that were more favorites than others? There again, as far as the response, the sound.
Sure. The Second Chance in Ann Arbor was probably one of our favorites, and then one of the other clubs that we loved was the Studio Lounge in Westland.
No.
And I love that part. Love Sam and everybody. You know.
But the sound was horrible there.
Yeah,
it was horrible.
You know what?
My band played there a bunch of times. It was horrible.
We had good PA. We had a big PA. We had good. Hey, we had Thunder Audio. The origins of Thunder Audio. Tony Villarreal. You know, who does everybody from Metallica to, you know, whatever.
Oh, okay.
He was one of our sound guys. Okay, I mean, you know, it's all in the. I'm telling you right now, a sound man.
Oh, makes a big difference for sure.
Pay that man. Give him whatever he says he wants, because if you get a guy that you go, holy smokes. And we were blessed to have really good, you know, sound guys. And don't get me wrong, we played shitholes. We played every shithole that you could possibly think of. You know, and they were what they were. But again, you were playing. You were working musician. So when you got to play some favorite places, but the Second Chance was fantastic. The center stage was good.
Oh, I know. Because like I said, that's where I saw you with Double Pie, and that was such a magical night. I still tell that story.
Yep, that was a good show. We did a lot of stuff there. We played in different bands. I played there many times, opening up for the Babies and stuff like that. Other bands I can't even remember right now.
Sure,
I have to look back.
Well, you would also mention, you know, Al Nally and opening up for Blackfoot and all that. Obviously, didn't he handle Bob Seger at one time too? Was he involved with Seger?
You know, I'm not sure. I know Punch Andrews and those guys.
Punch Andrews. I'm sorry. I always get them confused because of Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I don't know about Bob. You know, again, that was he obviously started before we did, and then we came later on onto the scene, and by then, you know, Bob was Bob.
Yeah, nationally huge.
I mean, he is a Detroit icon, a worldly icon. I mean, the man has had some insane, you know, music.
Yeah. Did you build up any relationships that you remember from the time with other local bands that were out at the time? Do you remember playing with other groups and anybody specific?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: when you're all coming out at that time and you're all, you know, trying to, you know, mark your territory, basically, you know, and it's a piss and match sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you get with, you know, bands that you go, God, I love these guys, and they liked us, you know. So yeah, we made a lot of good. One of the bands that I actually worked with a great drummer from the band was Strut, the Almighty Strut.
Was that Gunner you're talking to?
That was Gunner, yeah. And Gunner was in a band. Oh, and I didn't mention this. We had a band out called Send More Cops, and Gunner was the drummer.
Wow.
Send More Cops. And it was Gunner, Pete, Tommy Hingham, and me.
And when would that have been? The late 80s or?
That was 90s, 2000-ish. And so, I mean, there were bands, you know, there were guys like that were coming up on the scene, and then you got to meet guys like that. Then you had, you know, bands like Seduce, Mark Andrews. You know, Mark Andrews was in Send More Cops.
Oh,
you know,
he was.
Yeah, he played bass for a while and sang. And, you know, another guy that I've always respected, and, you know, I could tell stories about these guys because they were younger, like, you know, Dave Black, another great guitar player, you know, sneaking him into the 24 Karat Club so he could sit behind us as Mugsy and listen, you you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when he was underage, you know.
Yeah.
So, all these fun stories. But yeah, I mean, you meet guys like that are just cool dudes, man.
They're coming up in it, yeah.
Yeah, Dave and Mark are great guys. Chuck, everybody, that band. Strut was always a great band. Always loved playing with them or go see them.
You talk about the original Strut, you know, with Jack Hammer, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there were so many bands. I mean, there were so many really good club bands and stuff, and we were all vying for that top spot. We were lucky enough, kind of in that upper area. You know, we had something that people were really digging, so we got to do a lot of great shows. But you know, and then there was always that East Side, West Side.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because you guys were West Side.
Yeah, and that was always, and I hate that. I you know, I mean, whatever. It's like I knew bands from the East Side that Strut was considered an East Side.
Yeah.
Toby Red, another great band at the time. Toby Red from the East Side. Love those guys. They were a killer band. And then you had that separation where you couldn't play clubs over there if you're from this side, or you get you go over there. And, yeah, man.
Now, was that because they were that much more well known? They were afraid to take a chance on some West Side?
No, I don't think it was that. I think it's just that stupid stigma thing, you know, like, oh, you're an East Side. East Side bands have their own thing, and back then there was that thing, you know. I mean, it sounds like, you know.
Yeah, no, I've heard that from so many.
Yeah, and you'd come to the West Side, and you had all the West Side, and Mariah, Mariner, and all these other bands that played, you know, around the West Side. You never hardly see them get to the East Side. And if you did, you didn't get a write up, or you didn't get a good crowd, or whatever.
Well, it seemed like if they did, they'd get into either the Ritz or Harpo's would be the.
I played those places so many times, and it was like I played our asses off, and you go, well, it was okay. Harpo's was good, but like the Ritz, we never went over really good at the Ritz. But then we could come back to the Second Chance and just have a line out the door for people to come see us, you know. So,
now, you haven't mentioned the Token Lounge. You guys played the Token?
See, there's another one. I love the Token Lounge. Token Lounge was another great.
Because it went through so many changes. Because me coming up in the 80s, like I said, I'd seen you guys in the 80s.
Yep.
I was really getting into more of the hard rock metal scene. Halloween, Seduce, definitely. Would go and see them constantly. Matter of fact, I've interviewed Mark and Chuck and even their
George.
Yeah, and I've even interviewed Brian Thomas and my buddy Mickey St. Clair, who was the original drummer with Seduce.
There you go.
And I played the band with him for several years.
Cool.
And they all talk about that same thing too. They don't want to really name names as far as that rivalry effect. You know, Bittersweet Alley was another band, of course, from that time that was big time East Side. You had a whole scene of these, these like punk bands, these new wave bands, or Trash Brats, Junk Monkeys, stuff like that. And the whole scene was changing, of course, because then all of a sudden you had grunge taking over.
The grunge kind of came in and knocked us out of the picture. That's we actually had, this was the A.S.U.R thing that I mentioned, and we won this contest, like a battle of the band kind of thing, and we got to open up for Ted and Gary Hoey at New Year's Eve.
Oh, yeah, Whiplash.
Yep, Whiplash Bash.
So you would have that was done at the Studio Lounge, because I know that's what.
No. We actually, this was another club way out Clarkson.
Oh.
Yeah, and this was A.S.U.R, so it was the newer era. And we got it, and at the same time, we were being courted by Geffen. A guy from Geffen Records came out to see us, because they were hearing a lot of good things about the A.S.U.R thing. And I had some other people that was really working, another great guy that, again, all these people that are no longer, a guy named Steve Fortney, who was a man in the business that if you knew him, he could get you places. And he was just, and also just one of the biggest sweetheart guy you'd ever want to meet. Anyways, he loved our music. He was championing our music. And we were getting like all these notices. We get a thing from Geffen saying we want to come down and see you guys. They actually came to one of those shows.
Oh, wow.
Saw us, and we're talking to the guy, and we're thinking, wow, this might be it. first thing he says, he goes, "Man, you guys are awesome. I love the shit you're doing." He goes, "It's great, but there's this new stuff called grunge."
Yeah.
And we all just went, he goes, "Yeah, there's Pearl Jam and stuff in Nirvana." And we're like, "I don't know about, no, we don't know about that." And
Need you to buy some flannel.
yeah, and he goes, "I wish I could sign you." He goes, "But I'm telling you right now, all we're doing is this grunge, and it's a huge college thing." And it killed not just us, but every hard rock band at that time went bye-bye pretty much, so.
Well, the last thing I was going to ask you about was you had mentioned earlier that you and your son were working together now and doing this like instrumental type stuff. Are there any plans as far as playing out, doing any kind of shows in the future? Have you got anything? Or is this more or less a recording project?
Well, we don't have any shows right now.
Right.
We've been doing a recording. Oh, and I do want to, and I'll get more into that, but I do want to also mention another project I'm doing right now. And it's a band called Spiderhoof.
Okay.
And it's strictly right now, it's strictly a studio thing that we've been doing and contributing to, and it's all different guys on this thing. It's spearheaded by a guy named Tom Coor, and he found us and all the people that he's worked with, and we've been putting out some really cool stuff. So if you want to hear some really cool blues, pop, rock, hard to categorize, but check it out, Spiderhoof. My son and I definitely want to play together. When we do play together, it is like the thrill of a lifetime for me, because except he's getting way better than me.
Did he learn that from Jack Black, or did you?
No, he learned that from me.
But would he say that?
Yes, he would.
Just kidding.
No, he was playing. I mean, he wanted to play guitar before he could hold a guitar, and he is a fantastic, much better all-around musician than I ever was. I mean, he keyboards and drums, and he can, play all these instruments that I couldn't. And then he plays guitar like a son of a bitch, But so we're doing stuff, but we want to, trust me, because we love playing together. When I would do some shows, again, another band called Geezer Rampage out in Ohio, that I would do shows with some great guys down there, and I plan on doing some more. But he would come and sit in with the shows, and we just would do our double guitar attack. People loved it, we loved it. Yeah, I want to play, but right now we're working on just material. We got to get and he's doing his own thing too. He's like I said, if you go to look him up on Instagram, you can hear all the facets of everything that he's doing. He's a very eclectic player. He can do jazz to rock to whatever, but he loves to play guitar.
Now, are these recordings you're doing together, is it just you two playing all the instruments, or do you have other members?
No, right now it's just him and I, and we we'll write, like, he'll write up tracks or find tracks and stuff, and then we play. We'll play either he can do keyboard bass, or we play bass, and we play all the guitars and everything. And being an instrumental, it's kind of a throwback to like a Jeff Beck kind of thing.
That's really cool.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
God.
And I'm saying that with the utmost respect, bowing down when I say Mr. Beck, because to me he was and still will always be amazing.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're kind of shooting for, our version of that. And again, if you go on and look up the Mojos.
The last thing I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to let you go, is back in the day, whether it would have been with probably more or less during the Weapons time and maybe A.S.U.R. Were you guys heralded in any way, like by Doug Podell? Doug was really a big supporter of all these bands at the time. Did you guys do any things where he helped as far as that? Were you on the beat or anything like that?
Doug had those. Doug had the shows on. He had the video things that he would do on cable, and he helped as much as he could. He did a lot of shows. I mean, at the time, I think he was with W4.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, like guys like Doug Podell, they of course part of the lexicon of the Detroit thing. Other guys, all the DJs, Steve Costa and Ann Carlini. Todd Fowler, on and on and on. James O'Leary, Jim O'Leary. Yeah, everybody, if they liked you and you were cool and they were cool, loved working with them. And they really did, try to champion the local band, especially if they were into it.
Well, Joey, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you taking the time. I wish you all the best. You know, you and your son doing the recordings. Hopefully you get out and some of that stuff that you're playing together will be out on YouTube or whatever. And you can maybe get some shows down the scene, because I know a lot of people still know exactly who you are and would love to come see you again.
Well, I'm telling you right now, if I'm playing somewhere, you'll be the first to know.
I really, really appreciate that. I will promote it too. Definitely will promote it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, brother. Well, you have a good night, man, and don't let the weather get you down.
You got it. No problem.
All right, man. Take care. Okay, this has been Jimmy Jive and Motor City Rock Talk. That was Joey Gaydos, originally with Mugsy, Weapons, A.S.U.R, and as you heard, several other groups. He's now working with his son, Joey Jr., on some upcoming instrumental projects, and hopefully we'll hear about that real soon. So anyway, as I like to say, keep rocking.